The Justice Department, now headed by Attorney General Jeff Sessions, dropping its objection to Texas's voter identification law. The DOJ under President Obama argued for 6 years the Texas law requiring voters to show certain forms of identification was discriminatory. Civil rights groups still fighting the law in district court, where a hearing is set for tomorrow. The Justice Department expected to lay out its new position during that proceeding for the first time under this president. Well, joining me now, member of the House Judiciary Committee, Congressman Louie Gohmert of Texas, and great to see you, Congressman.
It's great to see you.
This is quite a move on the part of the.
It's a great move.
It changes the whole world, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, who would have ever thought that a Justice Department would think it was a good idea to make sure that people who voted were who they said they were?
Right.
What an incredible idea.
The American people have got to just scratch their heads, though, when they watch this town and the Democratic Party in particular insists that it's discriminatory to have identification when identification is required for all people.
Everything.
And all over this town and across the country.
Yeah, to get into the Democratic National Convention, you have to have a government-issued photo ID. So why
How about to drive a car?
Well,
how about to get on an airplane?
Get a cigarette, get something to drink. And this may be more important than getting something to drink. But anyway, it's just ridiculous. And states, we've got, now we've got some track records. We've had states that have been doing this, requiring photo ID, and they've had more minority turnout, not less. But if you look back, Lou, at this Justice Department under Loretta Lynch and under Eric Holder, they were saying that, gee, you can't even get rid of the dead people off of your voter rolls.
It's interesting to me to watch, and I want to hear your opinion on this. The Democrats having a fit because President Trump called for an investigation, that's all, to make sure have electoral integrity in this country, to check the rolls, to check whatever is going on. And they say, no, false. There's no sign of voter fraud. That's why you investigate, to see if there, in fact, is.
I had a flashback. Back in the 90s, David Brinkley and Tom Brokaw were waiting on election results, and Tom said, David, tell them that story Johnson told y'all. He's, well, back in the 60s, before Watergate, press and news were good friends, and Johnson, must have been the 66 election, he had his boots up on one of our desks down in the press room, and hand in his stomach, scratching his stomach and drinking a beer, and he said, yeah, I remember when I ran for Congress, my campaign manager and I were out in the cemetery looking, writing down the names of people who were going to vote the next day, and we came to one, you couldn't read the gravestone, and my manager said, let's go to the next one. I said, no, sir, this man has every bit as much right to vote as everybody else in this cemetery. That stuff goes on. It must go on for them to raise this kind of havoc over Trump saying, let's be sure that these have some integrity.
You know, in the history of things, Johnson, of course, and Coke Stevenson with their
you know your history.
That's you know, that still lives in Texas infamy. This president, you look to me like a man who's enjoying Washington more than I've ever seen you. That's made a difference in your life, hasn't it?
Enjoyed 2005 till I saw we weren't going to keep our promises. But yes, I've been enjoying this year far more than I ever had. Yeah.
You think he's going to get it done? Is he going to be able to fulfill all of his promises?
A lot of that
Lord knows he's trying, but what about the leadership of your body?
Well, and that's the thing. I keep hearing people downplaying what we're going to be able to accomplish. This should be a no-brainer, and we're just the people with no brains to prove it. We ought to be able to keep our promises. It doesn't require.
Do you believe the House leadership under Speaker Ryan is going to work faithfully and as hard as possible to fulfill this president's agenda? Straightforward. We're out of time.
I don't see that yet, but by golly, we're going to get there.
All right.
If we have to drag them, kick it. But you know, this stuff about having employers pay a Cadillac tax, are you kidding? That stuff's got to go. We got to clean this up.
Well, this is your opportunity. Congressman Louie Gohmert,
it is.
Great to see you. Thanks.